Daydreaming about dragons. I want to talk about random tables, okay? And I'm going to quote my good friend Strash, who said, random tables are world building, right? And if you look at Scum and Villainy, if you particularly look at Band of Blades, you will see that in action, because that's exactly how they're used. Particularly Band of Blades and the mission tables. I mean, that is just world building, mwah, at its best. It's good stuff. So that is what I want to talk about. Band of Blades, Blades in the Dark, Scum and Villainy, they use it in a similar way. Band of Blades probably more than the other two, right? And then there are, I think, the gold standard of random tables, which is Kevin Crawford's random tables. Godbound, Stars Without Number, they are just excellent. You can generate a sector of space in Stars Without Number. You can generate jobs, problems, mentors, governments, encounters in the wilderness, encounters in cities. And I've had great success with that, and I want to talk about why. So a couple of just techniques for using random tables. Okay? Number one, only roll as much as you need to. Right? If you've got 4 tables that are giving you different details, roll the first 2, see what that inspires in you, and then look at the last 3 and pick based on what makes sense. Now, maybe you're just in a rush and you just want all the details right now. That's totally cool. Go for it. Maybe part of the fun for you is that you want to have to make sense of it, in which case roll all of it. But you don't have to. The tables are there to inspire you. So use them for that. You don't have to use them, do or die. So that's one aspect. That's one thing that roll as much or as little as you need to. If it gives you a great idea for an encounter, go for it. If the world if something happened that makes sense, you roll a random encounter, right? And it just that a bunch of orc hunters are following the party. Then have the orc hunters show up. Go with what makes sense. Go with what makes sense at what's going on at the table. Go with what makes sense to show the consequences of the player's actions. The players lit a fire. They didn't do a smokeless fire. You've established in the fiction that at dusk and dawn, griffins tend to attack camps where there are fires, because they know that camps that have fires usually have horses, and horses are delicious. Any griffin will tell you that. So if you've established that and they light a fire, then you know that the griffins are coming. You don't have to do a random encounter. If you find the random encounter totally boring, here's a pro tip. Got a boring encounter? Roll again. And those 2 things are fighting. Those 2 things are in a conflict and the players are walking into it. That's a great way to use a random encounter table. Instead of just, hey, this thing is here. Roll twice, those things are fighting. And now players are in the conflict. Now they have a bunch of really interesting decisions to make. Whose side do they take? Do they sit it out? Do they, you can roll some more dice. You roll a 20 side for each side. And decide, or roll a die for each side. And the higher is doing better. Maybe if it's a bunch of armored knights on one side and a bunch of, desperate peasants on the other, you roll a d20 for the knights and a d6 for the peasants. Maybe the knights roll a 1 and the peasants roll a 6. Cool. The knights, their horses got mired down in the mud, and the peasants are pulling them down off their horses and putting spears through their armored eye sockets. What do you do? The tables are there to the tables are there to do a couple things. They're there to inspire you, and they're there to say something about the world, right? If the players take the King's Road, the safe road, the warded road, the ancient warded road that the king made 1,000 years ago, that should not be the same random encounter table if they take the shortcut through Skull Swamp. right? Right. So through these tables, you will be doing world building. And you've got to do it. Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense. Does not make sense. It's got to have context. It's got to have something to do with the world around them. Got to. It is world building. And another game that uses it is Trophy. Trophy Gold uses it. There are the D66 tables, which give you 36 items. And those items are used in Trophy Gold to talk about setting elements, talk about places, talk about cities. And it's a nice way to just roll for an element and get something out. It's also a nice way to just... 36 line items is actually a really nice way to take in a setting. You know? It's not a huge bit of text. You're not reading a book. It's really chill. And you get to fill in the gaps in the middle, which I totally love. Totally love. So that's what I'm thinking about. Random tables. They should inspire you. They should say something about the world. They should teach the players things about the world. You know? Throw something in there that just interests you. And if something is in there that you just think is a cool roll right now, do it. Pick that one. You don't have to roll as much or on it or as little. Another thing I learned from OSR folks that I did not know, every once in a while there'll be a blog post with D100, zany wizards. And I hated those posts. I didn't understand. And I just hated them. I was like, who uses a D100 table? That's not a D100 table. That's 100 ideas, and you can pick from them all the ones that you want. So that if you have if you have one wizard on your table, you can plug it in. Plug your favorite of the 100. If you want 6 wizards on your D6 table, grab your 6 favorites. That was a aha moment for me. So that's what I'm thinking about. Tables. If you want to see great examples of tables, look at Godbound, look at Stars Without Number. Band of Blades does excellent mission tables. Those games will all be in the show notes. Check them out. They are splendid. They are some of my favorite tables ever written. So check that out. If you want to see me write a table, I wrote a treasure table in a PDF supplement called Paid For in Blood. I'll have a link to that in the show notes too. And you can see what I did. And I've been using it in my Thursday night Trophy Gold game, and it is super fun. Super duper fun. So, all right, let's get to the Inspiration Goat. Inspiration Goat, what do you got for us today? Ooh, the FIend Folio. Tome of Creatures, Malevolent and Benign. That color blue, the color blue on the cover of this book just does something to me. So when I was a young gamer, one of the things I would do is I would just flip through monster manuals and the FIend Folio and just think about adventure ideas for every monster. And I would just go through systematically, reading about them, thinking about what they did in the world, and thinking about how to use them at the table. And good times. And I still love them. I someday, when I have a house with some kind of a study, I would like a shelf of books that's just monster manuals. That's my ambition. Yeah, maybe I need to aim higher, but that's what I got for right now. It's not the only ambition, but it's one of them. And within the FIend Folio is my favorite monster, the Githyanki. I adore them. I know a lot of people, choose sides and they say, oh, the Githzerai are better. So I want to talk about why I like them and what I love about them. I'm not going to go into the history of them. I believe they were actually based on an alien in a George R. R. Martin book back in the day. I could be wrong, but I will look. This is not history. This is just text. Right? What do I love about the Githyanki? Right? They've got well, what are they? They're these humanoids, usually evil, kind of imperialistic. I don't like them. I don't want to have a beer with them. I just think they're cool, right? I don't think imperialism is cool. I think the fact that these monsters exist is cool. I love the elements that go into them because it doesn't line up particularly well with any myth, right? It seems like all of these disparate pieces shouldn't make sense. But in the FIend Folio, for whatever reason, they do make sense, right? These kind of bony, almost mummy-like warriors with wraps all over their limbs and great silver swords, worshipping a lich queen, coming from the astral plane through gates. They've got a pact with red dragons, psionic powers. They've got warlocks. It just all together, it just doesn't make any damn sense. But as a whole, I love it. Love it. Love it. Is it kind of a mess? There's more. Is it kind of a mess? Yes. We'll get to the mess. But there is more cool stuff. They've got kind of a cousin species called the Githyanki, both of them were once one people, the Gith, and they were enslaved by the Illithid, who are these kind of Lovecraftian, chthonic squid people who eat brains, very psionically powered, and they broke free together and then had some kind of a schism, and now they hate each other. The only thing they won't kill each other for is to kill an Illithid, right? Because it was the Illithid who enslaved them. Awesome. I think that slavery is the bit where things get a little hazy with the Githyanki. And I'll get into that. I want to keep giving the love until I get to the cringe, right? So how have I used the Githyanki at my games? Let me tell you. Back in the day, two things were happening. The third edition of D&D had just come out, and I had just gotten back from a year in Japan. And I hadn't really seen the new edition yet. I had kind of read through it, but I hadn't played it very much. And I was super excited. So I got some friends together. The Fellowship of the Ring was just coming out. It was like on the horizon. It was the summer before the Fellowship of the Ring came out. And so I made up a couple of pre-made halflings for my friends. And I ran like an all-halfling game. And it was super fun. And until it wasn't. But that's another story. That's a whole other episode. One of the things in this game that I was doing is I was really thinking about alignment, right? I was really chewing on it. And the way I was chewing on it, and without swallowing it, without doing any real digesting or real soul searching, is I decided that dragons didn't have alignment based on the color of their scales. So the players actually served a green dragon called the Green Lady, and most of the major empires, civilizations, groups of people had some kind of dragon at their head who kind of anchored them. So there was a gold dragon that was kind of a Roman Empire type of dragon who was pretty imperialistic and pretty shitty. There was a red dragon off beyond the Roman Empire who had a whole bunch of like goblins and humanoids who they had kind of united under them. And they also had a bunch of children. The red dragon had a bunch of children. This is going to get to the Githyanki, because one of the players would get kidnapped, would actually get captured by the red dragon. And it was a bard. It was a halfling bard. And I didn't want to kill him. And I had an adventure idea, so I went with it. So the Githyanki have this pact with red dragons, right? Cool. So what that means is very often Githyanki will come into an area and they'll have like a wing of Red Dragon Air Force. Pretty cool. And I got thinking, world building thoughts, right? Well, if dragons serve in the Lich Queen's army and the Githyanki as a people have a pact with red dragons, what do the red dragons get out of it? So I decided that red dragons, once in their lifetime, can send an emissary to the capital city of Githyanki, known as Tanareth, which is built in the astral plane, on the astral sea, on the body of a dead god, which I somehow didn't mention when I talk about how cool Githyanki are, right? So that once a lifetime, a red dragon can petition the Lich Queen for 1,000 Githyanki soldiers, a legion. And they will stay for a year and a day, and then they will go back to Tanareth. Sounds good? Cool. Well, this red dragon was very ambitious. And they decided that they didn't just want a legion for themselves. They also wanted a legion for each of their children. So they empowered this young halfling to go to Tanareth, city on the Githyanki capital, in the astral plane, built on the back of a dead god. And there, the young halfling hobbit bard was to petition the Lich Queen for 4,000 Githyanki soldiers. And it was pretty dope. Gotta say, as world building stuff goes, that was fucking fun. Loved it. And it changed the world. It straight up changed the world. Very cool. Good times. Where's the problem, you say? Okay, so I tweeted about this a couple days ago. I'll have a link to the tweet. And in that tweet, I also have a link to a call for papers from the Analog Game Studies Journal. And they are looking for papers about the FIend Folio, studying it, thinking about it, looking at it, with cultural critique and theory and cultural theory. Cool stuff. Check it out. And there's a line from a book that is troubling and kind of gets to a problem with Githyanki. This is a line from the 4th edition, the Monster Vault. And it's a quote from a character, apparently, in the D&D setting, Philaster of Hestevar. And the quote is, "It's almost as though the Githyanki feel that the entire universe owes them reparations for the years of slavery they endured under the Mind Flayers." Yeah, so here's the deal. Here's my thought on monsters and magic, right? If you stare at your choices in creating a monsters or magic long enough, monsters, let's stick with monsters. If you stare at the choices you make when creating monsters long enough, you will be able to figure out what it is that you're scared of. And it vexes me. I know it's an in-game quote. I'm not saying Githyanki are racist. I'm saying we need to think about what it enables to have an evil species, number one. We need to think about, as a subculture, what it means, what it enables us to do to have an evil species that is demanding reparations, right? The main place where I hear about reparations politically as an American is in the Black American experience and slavery. And to vilify that using my favorite monster pisses me off. I find it very frustrating. And so that's all. It's not that I think we shouldn't use Githyanki or we shouldn't use Orc. It's that we need to think about this stuff critically. Very critically. We need to be critical of the stuff we love. That's all. That's all I'm saying. So if you stare at your monsters long enough, you'll find out what you're scared of. And if you stare at your magic system long enough, you'll figure out something that you want to say about the world. That's probably a whole other episode. But that's another thought I have. I could be wrong. I said that once at a poker game, and there was a guy there who was a writer. He got super pissed at me. He was not happy. Not happy. And not because I was taking his money, but because I was saying something about his imagination and him. He was pissed off. He took it personally. So don't take it personally, please. If you do, tell me, and I'll apologize for whatever piece of this I have to apologize for. I'm sure I'm not doing this topic entirely justice. I am thinking out loud, and I'm trying to be critical, right? It's not that evil orcs are bad. It's that declaring a whole people or a whole race as evil is something that we've seen in history before, and it sucks. It leads to shitty things. Take it from a Jew, it leads to shitty things. Not that I'm the only person who has had people, referred to as evil. Far from it. Far from it. But that's the critical thinking that I think we should be doing. And it should be in our game texts. It should be there to help us make things up. Not because we want to be politically correct, but because we want to have a table where everyone feels welcome. We want to have a table where people don't have to sit there and look at what ugly people think of them. Right? That shouldn't be something that my friends have to think about. My friends shouldn't have to look at what the worst people in the world think of them when they're trying to play a game. There's a lot of good links to this. I'm going to link you to the Analog Game Studies, which has a call for papers. Check it out. If you've got the gumption, you should totally write a paper on the FIend Folio. Look at the call. I'm also going to have one more thing. I'm going to have 3 links from James Mendez Hodes' amazing blog. And check it out. And please, if you look at nothing else, there's a link to an article, which is a video, called The Most Important Point I Can Make About Orcs. And if you look at nothing else, check that out. Okay? Let me know how you have used Githyanki or Githzerai or Elithid, or your favorite. Tell me what your favorite monster is and what you've done with it, how you've used it. Drop me a line, and we'll have more about that in the outro. But I'd love to hear about your favorite monsters. What's your favorite monster book? What's your favorite monster in that book, and why? And is there anything about it that gives you pause? Is there anything about it that reflects something in the real world that is worth being critical about? And what have you done? What have you used those things for? What have you used these monsters for at your table? I'd love to hear about that. Sound good? All right. Let's get to the outro. Finish this up. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it. I would love to hear how if any of this resonated with you or made you think about something or brought up a disagreement. Let me know. Drop me a line at judd.karlman@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you and hear what you have to say and hear about what's going on at your table. So drop me a line. So you can email me. You can email me an MP3. You can send me a message through the Anchor app. You can tweet at me. My Twitter handle is Judd of Cryos, and it's always in the show notes. So that's another way to get in touch with me. If you'd like to support the show, sending me a message is a fantastic way to do it. If you don't have the time for that, that's okay. You can also leave a review. You can go to iTunes and leave a review. You can leave a review on whatever podcasting app you hold dear if it does reviews. I appreciate it. It really, really does help, and it's a big deal. So thank you so much. If you would like to support the show with your wallet, that's totally understandable, and I appreciate you offering. Right now, I have charities in the links that support Black Lives Matter and our trans siblings and causes that I think are important and people that I think are important. and check it out. If you felt like you needed to vote with some money, say, hey, that was a good job. Feel free to drop some money there. And if you still feel like you need to do something, email me about how that made you feel and how cool it is, and we'll high five digitally, of course, and you know, that'll be a nice thing. So that's cool. I hope your gaming is going well. I hope your summer is ending well. I can almost, in the morning, I can feel autumn coming, you know? I love autumn. Autumn's my favorite. So I'll see you in a week. I don't know when the leaves are going to start to change. It feels way too early to start talking about that in mid-August, but it's coming. It's definitely coming. I hope you're well. I hope you're safe. And I hope the gaming is going fantastically. Hope it's full of wonder, like Tyrion looking in the sky at a dragon. See you next week.